Have you ever imagined witnessing a mother bear's worst nightmare? Can you visualize the scene of absolute despair when everything she loves most is threatened before her powerless eyes? Get ready, because what you're about to hear will shake your emotions until the last second. We're talking about a real, brutal, engaging story where survival mixes with courage in its purest form. In the icy expanse of Siberia's dense forest, the wild habitat of the mighty brown bear, a harrowing drama is about to unfold. It was the beginning of autumn, when the trees began to lose their leaves, and the bitter cold announced the relentless arrival of winter. At this time, bear cubs are still extremely vulnerable, dependent on their mother's every protective move to survive the countless dangers that lurk in the Siberian forests. Among the twisted branches and the damp mossy ground, a small bear cub, whom we will call Timo, innocently explored the world around him, completely oblivious to the threat that was sneaking up on him. Heartwarming stories of rescuing animals in extreme danger always touch us deeply. But what happened to Timo goes beyond simple empathy. It will activate in you feelings of compassion, anguish, and admiration for these survivors of wild nature. Timo, like any bear cub, had a mixture of curiosity and innocence in his eyes, unaware that the forest hid silent and deadly predators, ready to attack at the most unexpected moment. The air was still, as if the forest itself was holding its breath in the face of what was about to happen. A colossal boa constrictor, camouflaged among the shadows of the foliage, had already detected the little bear's movement. Slowly, with frightening precision, she began to approach. These rare and tense encounters are the essence of so many moving animal rescue stories that capture millions of hearts around the world. But this story, in particular, has a twist that few could have expected. Imagine, for a moment, the feeling of helplessness that Mother Bear felt when she realized that her fragile cub was about to fall victim to one of the most cunning predators in the forest. The danger was real, immediate, and implacable. Timo's chances of survival were slipping away by the second, and the forest seemed to watch in absolute silence, as if respecting this moment of pure wild tension. At this point in the story, the suspense becomes almost unbearable. Tension coils around our emotions like a boa constrictor around its prey. It is impossible not to become deeply involved in this natural drama, where every detail counts, every second matters, and the outcome remains a harrowing mystery. Bear rescues in extremely dangerous situations always carry this emotional weight, and here, the intensity reaches a new level. You, who are watching now, will feel your heart racing as we progress through this narrative, because what is about to happen to Timo and his mother defies all wildlife odds. A story that proves that maternal instinct is, without a doubt, one of the most powerful forces in nature. And believe me, this will not be just another story about survival. It's a true battle between life and death, courage and predator, which will keep you captivated from start to finish. And now that you're completely immersed in this icy, forbidding Siberian forest setting, it's time to move on. The next part of the story will surprise you in ways you can't even imagine. The Siberian forest is a setting as magnificent as it is unforgiving. A veritable labyrinth of ancient trees, with thick trunks covered in thick moss stretching in all directions like silent guardians of what happens beneath their closed canopy. As autumn progresses, a subtle but crucial change takes hold in the environment. The vibrant green of the leaves begins to give way to yellowish and coppery tones, which soon fall from the trees and cover the ground in a blanket of autumn. This transition is not only beautiful, it is also a silent warning. The bitter cold of the Siberian winter is on the way, and with it, hidden threats become even more lethal for forest inhabitants, especially for the most vulnerable. Timo, the little bear cub who stars in this moving story, walked innocently through the dry leaves that crunched under his furry paws. Curious eyes explored every shadow, every sudden movement. Without understanding that, every sound carried a weight that could mean life or death. It is at this stage of life that bear cubs are easy prey. Still learning about the dangers of the forest, they depend almost exclusively on maternal protection to survive. With each step Timo took, gradually moving away from his mother, the chances of danger silently increased. The forest air carried that icy dampness that seeps into the bones. The breeze, once gentle, became a sharp warning of the implacable winter's approach. For Siberian bears, it's a race against time, ensuring the cubs are strong enough to face the rigors of the freezing nights that will soon descend upon the taiga. But for Timo, at that moment, it was just another day of adventure, without imagining that danger was creeping through the shadows, ready to turn his innocent curiosity into a scenario of pure terror. While exploring, Timo ventured down a gently sloping trail, where accumulated leaves hid natural traps and potential predators. He sniffed the air, searching for the familiar scents of his mother or the warmth of the den. But what he didn't notice was the almost invisible presence of an enormous boa constrictor, camouflaged among the autumn colors of the forest floor. This snake, which would normally hunt small rodents or birds, had been attracted by Timo's body heat and the promise of a substantial meal before the approaching freeze. Nature, in its rawest form, is unforgiving of distractions. Timo's mother, always alert, felt the uneasiness in the air that only mothers are capable of perceiving. She sniffed the wind, turning her head in every direction, looking for any sign of threat. Her maternal instinct was a powerful force, a force that had protected Timo in other situations. But this time, the danger was too close, and every second of delay could cost your pup his life. The branches above swayed subtly in the rising wind, casting dancing shadows that heightened the tension of the dramatic scene. Everything seemed to conspire for the inevitable confrontation. The boa constrictor, sensing the moment was perfect, glided even closer. Its eyes fixed on Timo, who was distracted by the distant sound of migratory birds. He was so close to the death trap that any false move could seal his fate. This is the kind of story that reminds us why stories about rescuing animals in situations of extreme danger have so much power over our emotions. It's not just about a pup in trouble fighting for its life, but about the brutality of nature and the unwavering strength of the protective instinct. It's about courage, about the indestructible bond between mother and child, and about how, even in the most hostile environments on the planet, there is still room for miracles to happen. As Timo took another innocent step towards the threat, the tension reached its peak. Are you watching? Do you feel this expectation? The chill down your spine? The anxiety of wanting to warn Timo, as if your words could pass through the screen and reach the little bear before it was too late? It's this deep connection that makes heartwarming animal stories so addictive. We can't look away. We don't want to miss even a second of what's about to happen. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The ambient sound diminished, as if nature itself respected the tension of that critical moment. The leaves falling from the trees seemed to freeze in the air for a split second, as the boa constrictor's eyes narrowed, calculating the final movement. The mother bear, increasingly restless, began to move toward her cub, her muscles tense, her paws crushing the dry leaves under her weight. And just at that crucial moment, when everything seemed about to fall apart for little Timo, something extraordinary was about to happen. But before I tell you, if this story has already captivated you so far, if your heart has accelerated along with the rhythm of this exciting narrative, this is the perfect time for you to sign up here on the channel, Pilhot Emapuros, so you don't miss any of these deeply touching animal rescue stories, reminding us with each video that, amid the chaos of the wild, there is still room for acts of courage and miracles that defy all odds. Now bear with me, because what comes next will take this story to a new level of excitement and surprise. In the almost absolute silence of that Siberian forest, where the piercing wind was already beginning to howl through the withered branches, something sinister was moving, hidden under the blanket of fallen leaves and long, late afternoon shadows. The boa constrictor, silent predator, had already fixed its mesmerizing gaze on Timo, the defenseless bear cub. His eyes, two dark and penetrating points, followed the little one's every clumsy step, every curious stumble on the branches, every innocent movement that, without realizing it, took him closer to his dark destiny. Timo, immersed in his discovery of the world, remained oblivious to the lethal approach that was taking place behind his back. The boa constrictor, a robust and cunning serpent, knew that patience was his best weapon. Amid the dramatic Siberian landscape, its natural camouflage made it almost invisible beneath the blanket of yellowing leaves and wind-twisted remains of branches. There, in the beating heart of the wilderness, where rescues of animals in extreme danger are rare and often impossible, the boa constrictor glided slowly, almost as if time itself had slowed down to watch this scene unfold. Every muscle of the snake seemed calculated, precise, as if it were waiting for the exact moment to act. It's scary to think how, in nature, predators like the boa constrictor are masters of the art of waiting. They know, perhaps by ancestral instinct, that a hasty move could mean the loss of a valuable meal. That afternoon, while the forest whispered ancient secrets through the wind, the serpent remained motionless for long minutes, observing the cub's every reaction with surgical attention. She felt the heat of Timo's body radiating over the cold leaves, guiding her like a living compass in the icy expanse of Siberia. The bear cub, driven by the curiosity that defines his young age, had no idea that he had become the center of a deadly hunt. Their small snouts sniffed the cold air, without picking up the treacherous scent that the snake masked so well. Timo was distracted, fascinated by a butterfly that had dared to fly amid the growing cold, its paws playing with the dry leaves that created small swirls around it. It was the typical behavior of a bear cub, of an animal that had not yet understood the cruel reality of wildlife, where a second of distraction can cost everything. The boa constrictor advanced, almost like a whisper from the forest itself. Every inch gained was the result of patience and strategy. Her muscles rippled beneath her thick body as she lay low to the ground, blending perfectly into the autumnal scenery. The serpent's eyes didn't blink, fixed on the bear cub who innocently approached the fatal range. The tension was so thick that it seemed palpable, almost as if the very air around them was becoming heavier, charged with the electricity of a moment that bordered on the inevitable. Those who observe stories like this from the outside, from a screen, from a video like the one you are watching now, may not always realize the silent brutality of these jungle encounters. But we, who are passionate about moving stories about animals in extreme danger, know what's going on. We know how the fate of these cub in trouble can be decided in a split second. And what makes this moment even more harrowing is the inevitable feeling of helplessness it carries. You know what will happen if mom doesn't get there in time. You know that if something doesn't stop the snake's approach, Timo will hardly have a chance. And yet, even with this certainty tightening our chest, we can't look away. We remain attached to the screen, anxious, almost holding our breath along with the forest. That's the power of animal rescue stories, of the raw fight for survival, of the connection between vulnerability and hope. They remind us, in a visceral way, that even in the most adverse scenario, the instinct for life is unbreakable. Just inches away from its prey, the boa raised its head, ready to launch its devastating attack. His muscles contracted like ropes stretched to their limit, and for a brief moment, everything around him seemed to stop. Not even the birds dared to sing in that second frozen in time. It was the height of suspense, the moment when predator and prey met in an ancient, cruel, and fascinating dance. At this exact moment, the entire forest seemed to be watching, silent accomplices to the drama unfolding on their soil. And you, who are immersed in this story with me, feel this weight in the air, don't you? He feels this almost unbearable expectation, as if he could somehow cross this invisible barrier between the narrative and reality to warn little Timo of the imminent danger. But this is the essence of stories about cub in trouble, the essence that makes us return to video after video, looking for that moment when everything can change, when the improbable becomes possible. The attack was about to happen. The boa constrictor could practically taste victory on its palate, and Timo, unaware of the approaching storm, took another innocent step towards death. But what no one, not even the entire forest, expected was about to happen. Something that would completely transform the course of this story. Something that will make you want to continue until the last second of this captivating narrative. In the blink of an eye, which to Timo seemed like a silent flash of lightning within the icy forest, The boa constrictor broke the tension of the moment and launched its deadly attack. Its jaws opened just enough to grab the cub, but it was its body that brought the real danger. Like a living current, strong and cold as the Siberian winter itself, the snake launched itself at the little bear and, in a quick and calculated movement, began to coil around its defenseless body. The boa constrictor's coils tightened like a fatal noose, every inch becoming a prison that sucked the hope out of the air that Timo desperately tried to pull into his lungs. Little Timo, until then a curious explorer of the forest, became in a matter of seconds a prisoner of the jungle itself. Its paws flailed frantically, trying to escape the suffocating grip, but the boa constrictor's crushing strength was relentless. Each second dragged on like an eternity. Each attempt to escape seemed to only tighten the trap that now threatened his short existence. It was the pure portrait of a bear cub in trouble, experiencing firsthand the horror of a situation of extreme danger. At that moment, the forest, which moments before seemed alive with the sounds of wind and footsteps on the leaves, plunged into an almost sepulchral silence, as if every creature in the Siberian taiga stopped to witness that dramatic moment. It was as if nature itself watched helplessly the cruel spectacle that unfolded before the eyes of those who, like you who are following me now, cannot tear themselves away from the screen, overcome by the tension of this animal rescue that defies all odds of survival. The little bear's body fought with impressive courage for someone so young. Timo was unaware of the brutal force that was crushing him, but the instinct for survival, this one, as old as the existence of wildlife itself, pulsed through his veins. His claws scratched the icy ground. His front paws tried to push away the boa constrictor's coils that, like living steel ropes, continued to tighten him inch by inch, reducing his chance of escape to almost zero. Meanwhile, the boa constrictor seemed absolutely determined not to let go of its prey. The snake's muscles, contracted to the maximum, were like a wall of brute force that Timo could not overcome alone. The weight of the serpent, combined with its constricting power, quickly took the bear cub's breath away. With each desperate attempt by Timo to try to free himself, the boa constrictor responded with more force, tightening his grip even more as if he wanted to suffocate not only the cub's body, but also any spark of hope. Timo's mother, just a few meters away, finally realized the danger with all the clarity that maternal instinct can provide. His eyes widened in horror as he saw his cub in trouble, immobilized by the serpent's deadly coils. And even from a distance, it was as if an invisible bond of connection between mother and son had pulled the strength of all her ancestry to guide her towards rescue. She roared, a guttural roar that echoed through the trees like thunder in the calm of autumn, causing even the birds nestled in silence to take flight in a rush. But there was still a race against time at stake. For Timo, every second that passed was a step closer to collapse. His movements, once vigorous, began to become slower, weaker, and the curious sparkle in his eyes faded under the crushing weight of the boa constrictor. It is exactly in these moments, in these scenarios of extreme tension, that animal rescue stories capture us so deeply, because they reflect, in a visceral way, the fine line between life and death in wild nature. If you are following this story now, you feel in your chest the same thing I feel here when I narrate every detail. You feel the urgency of that moment, the chill in your spine when you see a bear cub in trouble fighting for its life with every shred of strength it has left. You feel the anxiety of wanting to speed up time, of wanting to see the mother bear arrive to save her little one before it's too late. That's what makes these stories so powerful, so human, despite being about wild animals. They remind us that the instinct to protect our own is universal, that the fight for survival knows no boundaries between species. The boa constrictor continued its relentless grip, and for a cruel moment, it seemed that Timo wouldn't be able to resist much longer. His breathing was labored, his eyes half closed in pure effort. But even in the face of adversity, even when all seemed lost, there was something that not even the brutal strength of the boa constrictor could erase: a mother's determination to save her cub. And as you will see, This force has the power to transform even the most desperate situations into miracles that defy all expectations. Before we move on to that crucial moment that is about to happen, and which, I guarantee you, will give you goosebumps from head to toe, if you haven't already signed up here on the channel Bear Cub in Trouble, this is the perfect time. Because this is where you will find the most moving stories of animal rescues, scenes of overcoming that defy nature itself, and connections between mothers and cub that will warm your heart in each episode. So take advantage and sign up so as not to miss the outcome of this story that is about to get even more unbelievable. Get ready, because the next part will surprise you in ways you've never. When everything seemed lost, when little Timo already felt the crushing weight of death approaching, with each turn of the serpent around his fragile body, the improbable happened. In a burst that seemed to tear the very fabric of the forest's deadly silence, a deep, deafening roar echoed through the sleeping trees of Siberian autumn. The sound was filled with despair and maternal fury, an ancestral force that crossed generations and broke down any barrier between predator and prey. The mother bear, until then frantically searching for her cub, emerged from the bushes like a living storm, an avalanche of power and instinct that would admit no fault at that crucial moment. Her vision was a mixture of grandeur and despair. Her hair stood on end, her eyes glowed like hot coals, every muscle tensed to the maximum as she advanced on the scene of pure horror. For any other predator, the mere sight of that protective mother would be enough to awaken the flight instinct. But the boa constrictor, already immersed in trying to suffocate Timo, hesitated for just a moment. A fatal error. With the precision of a fierce warrior, the mother bear delivered her first kick to the snake's body. The impact was so violent that it caused the boa's body to contort in spasms, momentarily releasing the pressure that was crushing the cub. Little Timo, still wrapped in the boa constrictor's coils, felt his grip ease for a brief second, which, in that context, signified the tenuous border between life and death. Every fiber of her little body fought to keep breathing, to keep consciousness as her mother fought the battle of her life before her half-closed eyes. The boa constrictor, realizing the imminent danger, tried to react. Her muscles rippled with renewed strength, seeking to tighten her grip on the cub again, or escape the bear's wrath. But now it was too late. The mother bear saw nothing but her cub in trouble. His protective instinct had become an unstoppable force. Its claws cut through the air with ferocity, hitting the snake's scaled body squarely, and causing deep wounds that began to weaken its resistance. The fight was brutal, a wild spectacle that, as cruel as it was also a pure demonstration of the raw beauty of wildlife. This is the essence of moving stories that make our hearts beat faster and make us reflect on the incredible strength of nature. It was a scene that captured everything that makes animal rescue stories so mesmerizing. The suspense, the vulnerability of the cub in danger, the almost superhuman courage of the mother, and that spark of hope that keeps us hooked on the narrative, wishing with all our might that the ending would be different, that the miracle would really happen. And the miracle was happening right before our eyes. With a powerful bite, the mother bear managed to grab the middle part of the snake's body, pulling it with overwhelming force. The boa constrictor, who had previously seemed invincible, now found himself at a disadvantage, caught between the need to survive and the relentless persistence of a mother fighting for her offspring. In a last desperate effort, the snake tried to break free, but the bear, guided by an unshakable love, continued to attack without mercy, determined to save her cub at any cost. Are you here following every detail of this survival story? Do you feel that same intense vibration in your chest? It is impossible not to connect with the pain, the despair, and at the same time, the almost magical strength that the mother bear demonstrated in that wild confrontation. These are the scenes that make our channel Pilhote e Mapuros exist. To tell these real, living, breathing stories that bring you not only the drama of wildlife, but also the hope that exists even in the darkest of times. With every second that passed, the balance of the fight began to tip in favor of the mother bear. Its heavy paws struck with precision, its powerful jaw clenched with such force that the boa finally began to loosen its grip around little Timo. It was an almost sacred moment, an instant in which the entire universe seemed to pause, as if the forest itself, silent witness to this miracle, held its breath in anticipation of the outcome. And it was there, under the carpet of golden leaves, with the sharp autumn air surrounding the scene, that the mother bear finally managed to free her cub. Timo, still weak but breathing, fell to the cold ground, his tiny lungs heaving desperately for life. The boa constrictor, seriously injured, slowly retreated, defeated by the strength of maternal love which, on that day, proved to be more powerful than any threat. But this story is still far from over, because what comes next will surprise you even more deeply, revealing how this bond between mother and calf not only saves lives, but also transforms the very dynamics of the wild forest. So before we move on to this next exciting moment, I want to propose a challenge that will help our channel grow and spread even more overcoming stories like this one. If this fight for life touched you, if you were moved by the courage of this mother bear, write here in comments the word strength. I want to see how many people are feeling this energy that connects us to these incredible stories with me. Your participation makes all the difference, so we can continue to bring you every detail of these stunning battles for survival. Now get ready for what's to come, because the next part of this story will stir your emotions even more. The weight of victory was palpable in the freezing forest air. With the boa constrictor finally defeated, the mother bear ran to her cub as if the entire universe was limited to just that mission, protecting Timo. His eyes, once inflamed with the fury of the fight, were now filled with fierce tenderness. It was a look that mixed despair, relief, and a love so deep that it seemed to transcend even the most primitive instincts. At that moment there, among the fallen leaves and the cold soil of Siberia, what we saw was not just a mother and her baby. It was the pure embodiment of compassion and the strength of bonds that not even the relentless savagery of the forest could break. Timo, still fragile, still feeling the echo of the serpent's crushing grip on his small body, could barely move. His breathing was rapid, his chest heaving as if he was fighting to regain every drop of air that the boa constrictor had stolen from him. The paws trembled, not only from the cold that mercilessly infiltrated their bones, but also from the recent trauma of that desperate battle. He was without a doubt the living image of a cub in trouble, a survivor who defied nature's brutal odds. The mother bear approached carefully, as if afraid that any sudden movement could further worsen the cub's condition. She lowered her huge head to Timo's weakened body, gently touching him with her nose. It was a simple gesture, but full of deep symbolism. It was as if, in that contact, she was not only checking to see if her baby was still breathing, but also giving him a breath of life, of security, of maternal warmth in the midst of the biting cold of the jungle. She began to carefully lick Timo's body, cleaning off the remnants of the fight and, at the same time, stimulating his circulation. These gestures, so instinctive for a mother bear, are crucial for the survival of her cubs in situations of extreme danger. It is in these moments that we see the true strength of the bond between mother and child, something that goes beyond the barriers of survival and touches the most intimate of animal compassion. If you're watching, can you feel this almost palpable connection? Can you see how, even surrounded by the brutal scenery of wild nature, there is room for the most genuine tenderness? Timo, although still weak, responded to his mother's affection with small movements. His half-closed eyes opened for a brief moment, and what he saw was the protective face he had known since the first day of his life. There, in his mother's firm, and at the same time loving eyes, Timo found the anchor he needed so much to resist. Even though he didn't fully understand what had happened, something in his instinct told him that as long as his mother was around, he had a real chance to keep fighting. The mother bear, as if wanting to protect her cub from any threat that might still lurk, positioned herself around Timo, forming a living barrier between him and the world. She growled softly at the surrounding forest, a silent warning to any predators that dared approach. "Not here. This cub is under my protection." It was a scene that chilled the soul. a true symbol of maternal strength in the wild kingdom, where the fight for survival is fought daily, and where a mother's love proves stronger than any predator. Even as she took care of Timo as gently as possible, her eyes remained alert to the surrounding environment. Nature never stops, and Mother knew that. Any distraction could mean renewed danger. She knew that the cub's moment of vulnerability was also a window of opportunity for other predators. But she was determined to keep Timo safe, no matter the cost. Each careful lick, each protective touch was like a silent reminder that despite the trauma, there was hope. That even in the darkest moments, the light of maternal protection could shine brightly enough to drive away even the darkest shadows of the forest. This image, this deep emotional connection between mother and cub, is what makes animal rescue stories so irresistible for all of us, who love to see not only the fight for survival, but also the moments of overcoming and starting over. If you've been with me so far, did you feel the weight of this scene? Have you felt how much it moves emotions? How much it directly connects us with the deepest feelings of care and protection? I want to invite you now, as we move on to the next chapter of this impressive story, to leave your mark here in this video. Write to us comments the word life, because that's exactly what we're witnessing now. Life triumphing in the face of adversity. I want to see this space filled with words that celebrate survival, strength, and the power of the bonds that unite us, even in the coldest and most dangerous forests on the planet. But don't think this story is over. What comes next will move you even more deeply, because although Timo is free from the serpent's arms, the fight for his recovery is just beginning, and you, of course, won't want to miss a second of what's coming. The fight was over, but the real challenge of survival for Timo was just beginning. The body of the little bear cub bore the deep marks of the boa constrictor's attack, marks not only visible on the skin, but also imprinted on the recent memory of the one who, for so little, had no longer been a silent victim of the relentless jungle. His ribs, still painful from the crushing grip, expanded with effort with each breath, as his weakened muscles tried to respond to the commands of his primitive instinct to continue living. But if there was something that still pulsed strongly in Timo, it was hope. And if there was someone who carried this hope in every gesture, it was his mother. From that moment when the boa constrictor retreated, defeated by the strength of maternal courage, the mother bear did not leave Timo's side for even a second. In the wild, where dangers are constant and vigilance can never relax, this was something rare, almost sacred. But for her, there was no higher priority. The entire world had been reduced to that little being, to his baby who, even though he was injured, still had a spark of life shining in his eyes. The nights in the Siberian forest are cruel, even more so in late autumn, when the cold begins to seep through the earth, hardening the ground and cutting through the wind like invisible blades. But even as temperatures plummeted, the mother bear stood by Timo's side, using her own body as a shield against the night's icy embrace. She wrapped her powerful paws around him, keeping the vital heat close to the cub. Her wide nostrils exhaled steam in the cold night, and from time to time she gently pressed her nose against Timo's chest, making sure that the little one's heart was still beating. Every dawn was a new victory, a small, silent celebration against the death that loomed with every gust of piercing wind. The mother grape, with her unshakable instinct, would go out for brief moments, just the right amount of time to hunt for roots or fish in semi-frozen streams, bringing food to maintain her strength. But he never strayed too far. The shortest distance seemed like an eternity to her. His eyes scanned the forest with increased attention, because one thing was certain. After an attack like that, other predators could smell the fragility of the situation and try their luck. But she was ready to defend Timo until her last breath. And Timo, despite being weak, responded to maternal care. Little by little, his eyes began to shine again, and small, timid movements began to appear in his aching limbs. He tried to lift his head, feeling the weight of the pain, but also the natural impulse that told him to continue. There was something about that little bear that brimmed with resilience, a silent determination that echoed in the hearts of everyone who, like us, followed this moving story of animal rescue in extreme situations. With each new day, The mother bear lovingly licked the cub's wounds, cleaning the scars left by the snake. This simple act was not only a gesture of affection, but also an effective way to stimulate blood circulation and avoid infections, a primitive instinct of care that transcends any learning. Can you imagine the intensity of this bond? It's as if she is, with each lick silently whispering to Timo, "Keep fighting, I'm here." The sun, although timid among the heavy clouds, cast its few rays over the clearing where mother and cub were fighting together this silent battle for recovery. It was as if even the sky, a distant witness to this drama, wanted to warm, even if only for brief moments, Timo's trembling body and the mother bear's tireless spirit. And we, privileged spectators of this story of overcoming, were unable to look away, overcome by the emotion that every second of this recovery conveyed. These are the stories that touch us most, not just because they show the most vulnerable side of wildlife, but because they remind us that the fight for life is sometimes built on the small miracles of everyday life, about silent perseverance, about constant care, about unconditional love that transcends even the brutal rules of the jungle. What we're seeing here isn't just a physical recovery, it's a rebirth. It is hope, dressed in thick skin and sharp claws, wrapped in the tenderness of a mother who refuses to give up. And you who have been watching this video so far are certainly feeling this connection as deep as I am feeling as I tell this story. You're feeling how this survival narrative isn't just about a cub in trouble, but about the invincible force of maternal care, about the hope that flourishes even in the coldest, most unforgiving lands on the planet. Therefore, I want to invite you to leave your mark on this story. If this recovery moved you, if the mother bear's protective instinct touched you in any way, write here in comments the word hope. I want to see this space full of hope, full of positive energy for Timo, and for all the incredible stories we still have to share here. Your comment, it helps not only spread this message, but also keep the flame alive for these stories that deserve to be told. And get ready, because what comes next will warm your heart even more. Timo not only survived, but the next chapter of this journey will show you something you will never forget. With each new day that dawned in the cold immensity of the Siberian forest, Timo took one small step further on the road to recovery. Slow, timid steps, but filled with a deep meaning that went beyond physical survival itself. It was as if the cub's every movement was a silent declaration of resistance against the relentless forces of nature. A reaffirmation that even in the darkest scenarios, there is room for rebirth. And there, always vigilant, always present, the mother bear remained as her tireless guardian, personifying everything that is strongest and most sublime in the animal kingdom, the absolute power of unconditional love. The wind that swept through the forest carried the smell of wet earth, fallen leaves, and the daily challenges of wildlife. But curiously, it also seemed to carry something else, something almost imperceptible, but you could feel it in the air, the silent energy of hope. Are you following this exciting story of animal rescue with me? Do you feel this too? That vibration that can't be explained, but that warms your chest? She was there, present in every lick from her mother, in every weak groan of Timo as he tried to stand up, in every protective look she cast towards the horizon, as if daring the jungle itself to try again. It's curious how, in the most inhospitable forests between cold shadows and lurking predators, family ties become so visible and so powerful. In the wild, life is hard, raw, without guarantees. But there is a force that cuts through this brutality, the instinct to protect your own at any cost. And the mother bear had shown the world, with the courage that only a mother could carry in her chest, that no matter the size of the predator or the severity of the threat, as long as there is life, as long as there is a bond, there will be a fight. Timo, still scarred from the battle, was beginning to show more visible signs of recovery. His steps, previously hesitant, gained firmness, and that sparkle of curiosity that defines bear cubs reappeared in his eyes. He looked at his mother as if he was looking for more than protection. He sought inspiration. And she, like a beacon in the darkness, continued to guide him tirelessly, encouraging him to move forward, even though the path was full of uncertainty. This scene, so simple to the inattentive eye, carries a gigantic symbolic weight. It's a true lesson in resilience, about how life insists on flourishing, even in the deepest cracks in the natural landscape. Timo's story isn't just about a pup in trouble who narrowly escaped the jaws of death. It's about the ancestral strength that teaches us that giving up is never an option when fighting for those you love. It's about overcoming, about starting over, about the transformative power of courage and love in the jungle of existence. As the cold breeze caressed the surrounding trees, as if the forest itself watched in reverence on this journey of recovery, the mother bear continued to guide her cub along the paths of life. With each new challenge, with each new threat that presented itself, she was there, reminding little Timo and all of us that no matter how adverse the circumstances, the family bond is a force that can change destinies. If you've been with me this far, have you noticed how this story reflects not only the reality of wild animals, but also our own existence? How many times in life have we felt like Timo, crushed by difficulties, suffocated by problems, surrounded by dangers that seem greater than our ability to face them? And how many times do we find, just as Timo found in his mother, a strength that supports us, that warms us, and that drives us to continue, even when everything seems lost? The jungle of life is unpredictable, full of twists, hidden traps, and silent enemies. But it is also full of everyday miracles, of small gestures of protection, of bonds that keep us firm, even when storms threaten to knock us down. And perhaps that's exactly why stories like this move us so deeply, because they remind us that deep down, we are all like Timo, seeking shelter under the wings of those who love us, and fighting day after day to take another step, no matter how small it may be. And if there is anything that this incredible journey of the cub Timo and his mother bear teaches us, it is that the strength of nature is not only in its savagery, but also in its ability to be reborn, to heal, to reinvent itself in the face of adversity. It is a powerful message that crosses time, that goes beyond the borders of the forest and echoes within us, reminding us that there is always a way out, there is always a spark of hope, there is always a reason to continue. If this story touched your heart as it touched mine, if you felt this connection between survival and love firsthand, I want to make a special request to further strengthen our bond here on this channel. Leave your like in this video right now. It's a simple gesture, but it makes all the difference so that we can continue sharing these moving animal rescue stories, these narratives that show us day after day that even in the darkest situations, courage and love can change destinies. And get ready, because Timo and his mother's journey still holds surprising moments that you will never forget. The days continued to unfold over the Siberian forest like pages of a book written by destiny itself. And what an impressive story this destiny was writing before our eyes. Little Timo, who had so narrowly escaped the boa constrictor's deadly claws, continued on his journey to recovery. His every breath was a silent victory, a triumph against the harsh laws of wildlife, which often offer no second chances to the most vulnerable. But there he was, defying all odds, tirelessly protected by his mother, who never abandoned her mission to keep him safe. As the dry leaves covered the forest floor, creating a carpet that rustled under the bear's paws, Timo tried to keep up with his mother's footsteps. There weren't firm steps yet, of course. They were staggering, sometimes wobbly, as if the weight of the battle still rested on their shoulders. But it didn't matter. What mattered was that he was there, fighting, surviving, showing the world that even a cub in trouble can find strength where there seemed to be only weakness. This is the essence of the animal rescue stories that fascinate us so much. Rebirth after chaos, the light that insists on shining even when everything seems shrouded in darkness. The mother bear, with her imposing figure and watchful gaze, was more than a protector for Timo. She was his anchor, his beacon amid the relentless storm of the jungle. You, who are following every second of this exciting story, must have already felt this energy. It is almost impossible not to become deeply involved with the visceral connection between these two beings, linked not only by blood, but by a bond that crosses time and surpasses the very limits of survival. The mornings arrived shrouded in mist, and the first rays of sunlight filtered shyly through the treetops. With each new day, the mother bear encouraged Timo to take another step, to explore another meter of the clearing that little by little became his safe territory. And he, despite the pain that still marked his body, responded with moving determination. It was as if he silently said, "I'm still here. I haven't given up." That kind of strength is what makes bear cub in trouble stories so compelling. These are not just battles against predators or the biting cold of the forest. They are internal battles, where the will to live turns into pure vital energy. As we watch this scene of pure resilience in wild nature, it is impossible not to reflect on how life manifests itself in the most unexpected ways. Timo's courage and Mother Bear's dedication are a vivid reminder that nature is relentless, yes, but also extraordinarily resilient. The strength of wildlife pulses in every beat of that cub's heart, in every attentive look of its mother, in every leaf that falls gently signaling the passage of time, but also the persistence of existence. And if you believe like me that this connection between mother and cub is living proof of the strength that inhabits wild nature, then you need to listen to what I'm going to tell you now. Because what comes next in this story is not just an ending. It is a true celebration of resilience, a silent lesson that echoes across the icy mountains of Siberia and comes to us like a powerful whisper of life itself. Stay with me, because the next chapter of this narrative will warm your heart even more and reinforce why we love these heartwarming animal rescue stories so much. Following Timo's rebirth is not just watching the recovery of a bear cub in trouble. It is witnessing life itself overcoming the forces that tried to erase it. And before we move on to this long-awaited next part, I want to ask you something simple, but very important. If this story really touched you, if you felt this pulsating energy of the fight for survival and the unbreakable connection between mother and cub, leave your like in this video right now. Your support is essential so that we can continue to bring you these narratives that move, inspire, and connect us deeply with the raw and sincere beauty of nature. Each like yours makes this story reach even further, spreading this message of strength, hope, and courage. Now take a deep breath. Bear with me, because what comes next will take this story to a new level of emotion. You won't want to miss the unfolding of this incredible journey that still has so much to teach us about the surprising magic of wildlife. If you were moved by this story of overcoming courage and unconditional love, take the opportunity now to sign up No Channel Bear Cub in Trouble. Here, with each video, you will find more exciting stories of animal rescues, cub in trouble, and moments of pure connection in the wild, which will definitely touch your heart. Don't leave it for later. Oh, and do the following. Write to us comments, where are you watching this video from? I love knowing where these incredible stories are coming from, and your participation makes all the difference. And look, it doesn't go away. The next video that appears on your screen will surprise you even more. I would even say that the story that comes now has such an unexpected outcome that you won't be able to stop watching. Click there and come with me on another exciting journey for survival in nature.